Well, hello there and welcome. My name is Stephanie Safarian, and you're listening to episode 503 of the Sustainable Minimalist Podcast. This is a listener-supported show about intentional and eco-friendly minimalist living. On today's show, we're discussing stuff you should know. Now, I've been thinking an awful lot lately about our cultural transition towards single-use disposable items. Clothing is rapidly on that journey towards becoming a single-use disposable item. Food made out of the home, wrapped in that single-use packaging. Tools, you name it, there's a cheaper and therefore disposable option on the market. Now, if you ask me, we Americans, we have taken this reverence for disposability way too far, and we took it too far decades ago. But I do wonder, how much further are we going to take it? Disposable bed sheets, perhaps? Is some company going to make sheets for our beds that we just throw out in the trash after sleeping on them for 1 week? And these sheets will be marketed to us by arguing that laundering our bed sheets is simply too much work. Or what about disposable pots, disposable pans, scrubbing pans with food on it? That's a pain in the butt, isn't it? And we, as a culture, revere convenience. So are we moving to a single-use pots and pans existence? Now, you may be laughing right now. You may be rolling your eyes. You may think this is all hyperbole, but is it? I'm 100% serious. Would our great-grandparents have ever fathomed using a fork just one time and then throwing it out? Heck no. But guess what? Plastic forks are everywhere. Paper plates, tissues instead of handkerchiefs. Even the non-plastic stuff these days is viewed as disposable. And the primary reason is that goods have gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Many Americans do not bother anymore to think twice about throwing out a t-shirt if that t-shirt cost only $2 on Shein. So today's show is chock full of stuff we should know so that age-old wisdom of our great-grandparents' time doesn't get thrown out with the passing of time. This episode is a compilation of very small skills that we can learn verbally without visuals in about 30 minutes. And I will say this episode is quite different from ones I've done in the past. So if you like this episode, let me know. If you don't like it, don't worry. We will be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Now, for my free listeners, so my free listeners are the ones who are all about the free content. You've got 3 things you should know today. And to my subscribers, you're getting 6 things you should know. So double the content. To my free listeners, I so hope you will listen today and think, oh man, I like this show and I want more of it. I want more of it so badly that I'm willing to support Stephanie and I'm willing to support Stephanie's work. You can support my work on Apple Podcasts. You can just hit the free trial button. You will get the full episode today that subscribers are already getting just by being subscribers. If you don't listen on Apple Podcasts, there's a link in the show notes to subscribe via Substack. And that full episode, as well as all future episodes, all past episodes, will come to your inbox on release date. There are so many benefits to subscribing. There's book club, which, by the way, is happening on November 12th. The book we're reading is The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. If you're a subscriber, get reading November 12th. If you're a subscriber, you also get ad-free listening forever. So you never have to listen to an ad again. Maybe my free listeners, you've noticed that the ads are abundant on this show. And guess what? The ads that are on my show are paying me pennies, not a lot. So you have to listen to a lot of ads, and the ads are not doing much to support the show financially. So you get book club, ad-free listening, extended episodes such as this one, and subscriber-only episodes. So ones that only go out to subscribers, not to free listeners. I do need about 200 more subscribers to ensure this show is financially stable. We're going to keep going the way it's going until the end of this year, and then we'll reassess This show might not be in existence in 2025. So if you can support it with $5 a month or $45-ish a year, you would be doing your part to ensure that Sustainable Minimalists continues on. And thank you. So let's get moving. Let's talk about action item you should know number 1, and that is how to season a cast iron skillet. And we talked about cast iron recently on this show. It was episode number 468 with Kyle Seep. Don't buy that pretty ceramic Dutch oven that you're seeing all the ads for on social media. Don't do it. Before there was aluminum coated in Teflon, before there were those very pretty ceramic pots and pans, there was cast iron. And so let's talk about Teflon for a minute. What is wrong with the nonstick coating that's all over our cheaply made aluminum pots and pans? Well, Teflon is a PFAS, aka a forever chemical. PFAS stands for perfluoroalkyl or polyfluoroalkyl substances. And the health effects, the documented human health effects are long, including increased cholesterol levels, decreased birth weight in children, decreased vaccine response in children. Some research also suggests a link between PFAS and some cancers, including bladder cancer, kidney cancer, ovarian cancer, and prostate cancer. There's also the female infertility problem. A UCLA study linked PFAS in Teflon to female infertility. Yes, so let's stay away from the PFAS and let's stay away from the aluminum pans covered in Teflon by embracing what our great-grandparents used, which was the cast iron pan. Our great-grandparents revered cast iron in the kitchen because it lasts forever. Literally forever. If you take care of your cast iron, your great-great-grandchildren can use and cook on the same pot or pan that you're cooking on now. So how on earth do you care for your cast iron? Well, you got to season it once in a while. You got to give it some loving care. As with everything, right? Here in America, we don't tend to give our items loving care anymore, but sustainable minimalists, we sure do. So to season your cast iron skillet, you are going to coat it inside and out, so all sides with vegetable oil or unflavored shortening, your choice. I like vegetable oil. I just think it's easier. Use a rag or a paper towel to move the oil around, get into every nook and cranny. It's going to get slippery, so know that ahead of time. Don't drop it on your foot. That's going to hurt. Then you're going to bake your slippery cast iron. You're going to put it upside down in the oven with a baking sheet underneath so you don't ruin your oven. You're going to bake it for 350 degrees for 1 hour. When your timer beeps, so when the timer goes off, just turn the oven off and let your cast iron cool in the oven. Once it's cool, take it out, dry it off again with a paper towel or a rag. And now it is ready to go. That's it. That's how you season your cast iron. You do not need special soap. You do not need to buy anything other than, of course, the vegetable oil. Now, you do want to be preventing rust in your cast iron. Somebody in my life I have a lovely little single serving egg cast iron pan. It's very little. It's great for like a sunny side up egg. Somebody in my life put it in the dishwasher and it came out woefully rusted. If you rust your cast iron, you first need to remove the rust with some steel wool and then you're going to season as we just talked about. You can season as often as you like. Seasoning does help protect it from rust. It creates that natural non-stick surface, no PFAS necessary. And just a reminder, you do not need to wash your cast iron skillet with soap. Don't do it unless you like food that tastes like soap. All right, so that's number 1, how to season a cast iron skillet. Let's move along. Let's talk about how to buy food locally. Now, I'm concerned, friends. I am concerned about our industrialized food system. I wonder whether it is as robust as we think it is. I wonder about the increasing prevalence and severity of storms and weather events. It just makes sense, in my opinion, to invest in our local food systems. Assuming, of course, you have a local food system. Assuming, of course, you have farms near where you live. Food deserts do exist. They often exist in marginalized communities, communities of color. And so if you live in a food desert, this item, you should know, does not apply to you. It just doesn't. But for the rest of us, it is really darn important that we, so you and me, it's important that we support our farmers for so many reasons. Here are just a few of them, right? Like locally grown food reduces emissions and air pollution. That tomato did not sit on a truck for hundreds or thousands of miles getting to your supermarket. Supporting your local farmer keeps your money in your own community. So you're giving your money to a neighbor, not Jeff Bezos or some other billionaire who frankly doesn't need your $20. You're giving it to somebody local in your community, and then that $20 is going to stay in your community. Fingers crossed. Supporting your local farmer creates jobs in your community, stimulates your local economy. And finally, local farmers are farmers because they care about the land. They are very likely supporting soil health, conserving resources with their day in and day out practices. It behooves us all to support those efforts as opposed to those gigantic monocrop farms that are doing X, Y, and Z to increase profits at the expense of the environment. So how can you buy food locally? How can you make that something that you do every week or most weeks as opposed to just once in a while? I have 3 ways for you. The first is to invest in community-supported agriculture, CSA. This is the best way because you're paying upfront. Now, we'll talk about that in a minute. But community-supported agriculture allows you to buy shares in advance in your local farm's harvest. In exchange, you will get a weekly, or in my case, every 2 weeks, box of produce from the farm. It's usually during the growing season. For me, that's May to about November. Now, this is the best option for the farm because the farm knows it can count on your money. It gets your money up front, and then your money can go into investment for that year's crops. While the CSA is the best option for the farm financially, it may not be the best option for you, the consumer, the eater of the food. Because with CSAs, you get in your box what the farm has an abundance of, generally, not what you necessarily want. So keep that in mind. My husband and I, we have been members of our local farm's CSA for over a decade. So we know what we're going to get generally, and we have experience. We know now after 10 years what we're going to do with those daikon radishes or that bok choy, let's say. So getting stuff we don't necessarily want isn't all that big of a hassle for us anymore. But for those of you that are new to CSAs, that can be tricky. Now, let me say here too, I received an email from a listener, Corey. Hi, I've been meaning to write back to you and I just haven't gotten to it yet. So Corey wrote to me. Corey said, I loved your meal planning episode. If you listened to it, great. If you didn't, I'll link to it in the show notes, but I divulged my secret for making meal planning as easy as pie. And if you've been trying that and if it's been working for you, I'm so happy. A bunch of you have written to me and said it works and you love it. But Corey said that while the idea sounded great, it wouldn't work for her because she has a CSA program. So she has to meal plan based on what she's getting per week. And to that point, Corey, I say I hear that. However, it still works for me as a CSA supporter because a lot of times on my meal plans, I have something along the lines of chickpea burgers with a rice pilaf and a side vegetable. So the side vegetable is up for grabs, let's say. It's dependent on either what I get in my CSA box or what I found at the farmer's market or what's on sale at the supermarket. I'll also say too, if we are thinking more like a chef. And of course, chefs go in with an open mind. Chefs are looking for what's freshest and what's seasonal, and then building the menu from there. It's easier to meal plan because like the staple mainstays are the pastas, the rice, the tortillas, the beans. You can almost pair any veggie with those items. Any veggie meaning any veggie you're getting in your box. So, Corey, that's what I was going to email to you. I'll just stick it in this week's episode. But speaking of the farmer's market, yes, if you don't have a CSA program near you or you don't want to invest in one because you're afraid of what you're going to get in the box, you don't have any say, I suggest you go to your local farmer's market or your local farm stand, your roadside farm stand every single week. Go before you go to the grocery store. If you're not sure if you have a farm stand or a farmer's market near you, head to localharvest.org. You just plug in your zip code and you'll find out where the closest market is, farmer's market, that is. Now, I do have some tips for farmer's market shopping. Go early. Like get there when it opens. That's how you get your pick of the best selection. There are certain items that tend to go quickly at farmers markets. I'm talking peas. I'm talking seasonal berries, heirloom tomatoes, corn, local fruits. Those things tend to go first. And if you get there early, you're going to nab them up. Also, go in bad weather. People tend to only head to farmers markets when the weather's nice, especially, if that farmers market is outdoors. I suggest you go even in the bad weather. Vendors will be more likely to make deals if there's not a lot of competition, right? If supply is high and demand is low. I suggest also you walk the whole market before you buy anything. See who has what. See what the prices are. And finally, my final tip for shopping at a farmer's market like an absolute pro is to bring your bags from home, obviously, and also carry cash. The amount you carry is up to you. But I know that when I go to a farmer's market, I tend to throw caution to the wind. Let's say I am talking to the actual people who grew all this gorgeous food. Holy moly, I want to give them all my money. So bring a set amount in cash and tell yourself that when that money is gone, it's gone. Otherwise, you might overbuy, and overbuying on food is the same as overbuying on everything. It can quickly cross that line into wasteful. Now, finally, if CSA is not working for you, if farmers market or farmer stands are not working for you, there is a third way to buy food locally, and that is to go straight to the farm. Pick food yourself. This can sometimes be cheaper, but it does depend on the farm. If it is an experience like here by me in New England at this time of year, it is all about apple picking. If the farm is making the apple picking into an experience, so I'm talking hay rides, I'm talking apple cider in the fields, it's going to cost more for those apples than the supermarket. It just is. You can go to pickyourown.org to find a participating farm that has Pick Your Own near you. I will just say with apples for a minute, some farms make it an experience and some farms do not. Just a couple weeks ago, my older daughter and I were driving around. We were coming from Vermont back to Massachusetts and we passed a farm. My daughter said, "Let's go pick some apples." I said, "All right." So we went to the farm. That farm was charging $15 for a peck of apples. So a peck is the small bag. I felt like the amount of apples that we received in that bag, in that peck, was worth $15. It felt like the right price. However, when I got back to my very expensive suburb here in Massachusetts, I thought to myself, let's see what the local farm is charging for a peck of apples. Would you guess my local farm, with its experience, with its hay rides and its apple cider donuts and all the things, Oh, and the animal petting, all the things. My local farm was charging $35 for a peck of apples. So I say that to say, first of all, you can pick things other than apples, berries, peaches, pears, you name it, you can pick it at certain farms. But number two, if it's an experience, it's just going to cost more. So that's how to shop for food locally. Free listeners, stay with me. It's time for that ad break, that dreaded ad break. We'll be back in a minute, and we're going to talk about how to shine shoes. And we're back. On today's show, we're discussing stuff you should know. Before the break, we discussed how to season your cast iron skillet. We also discussed how to buy food locally, not just like one and done, not just here or there. I'm talking buying food locally every week. Now we're moving on to shining our shoes. I know, right? Have you ever shined a pair of shoes? Shoe shining has been linked back to the 19th century. Shoe shining was a profession, and such professionals used honey or champagne or grease to shine shoes in the early days of the shoe shining profession. Now, let me just say, shoe shining is a real tongue twister. Oh, Lord, this is going to be interesting. All right. Now, I will say I do see once in a while in busy train stations some shoe shining stations. Whew. But these days, we're not really shining our shoes, are we? Our shoes get scuffed. We get rid of them. Either we donate or trash them, and then we just buy a new pair. Let's change that together, shall we? Shoe polish did not hit the masses commercially until the 20th century. And these days, shoe polish is a waxy paste or cream, and it is used to, yes, polish and shine, but also to waterproof our shoes, waterproof our leather shoes and boots, I should say. It's got to be leather. And yes, while shined and polished and unscuffed shoes are a status symbol of sorts, I mean, there is indeed an old saying, and the saying is, you can tell a man by his shoes. Shoe polish is also quite practical because it extends the life of our shoes. So we don't have to go out and buy new shoes every time our existing pair gets scuffed. So I want us all to become shoe shiners again. Let's take care of what we own instead of being wasteful and buying new. But how do we do it? Like, how do we shine shoes? Well, let me just say, if you have a pair of great leather shoes and there's a scuff on them, try a little tiny dab of toothpaste first. So get a moist rag. So wet a rag, put a little dab of toothpaste on the scuff, and then use the rag in a circular motion to scuff out the scuff. Wipe the toothpaste off and see if that did the trick. If that did not do the trick, it's time to buy some shoe polish. You can buy shoe polish wherever you'd like. I will say that mega online store that begins with an A does sell shoe polish. I'm not condoning going there to buy anything. However, I will say they do sell shoe polish. You've got to buy the color of the shoe you're looking to shine. And first things first, you're going to wipe your shoes down with a rag. No shoe polish necessary. Like, get off all the dirt. Then get your cotton rag or even your old sock, an old sock with a hole in it. This is a great dual purpose for that sock. Wrap it around your hands because you do not want shoe polish on your hands. You're going to dip your rag into some room temperature water, dab it into your shoe polish, dip it back into the water. And by the way, at this point in the process, your rag should be damp. It should not be soaking wet. And then with your other hand in the shoe, so actually inside the shoe for stability, apply the polish, tip to heel with tiny little circular motions. Make several passes over the same area before you go on to the next area. This might take a little while, take 10 minutes, let's say. And after polishing the entire shoe, get a clean cloth, dampen it lightly, and make one even pass over the whole shoe to prevent drops, to prevent streaks, to make it all even and uniform. Allow the shoes to dry for about 10-ish minutes, and then buff both sides of each shoe with a buffing cloth. If you don't have a buffing cloth, you could use pantyhose. Yes, you could. Slide it back and forth over the toe. You've seen this in the old movies, right? Slide that pantyhose back and forth over the shoe to increase the shine. Now, if you have leather shoes, leather boots, and you get salt on them, I live in New England, the roads are woefully oversalted, so are the sidewalks. If you get rock salt on your leather shoes, try adding a tablespoon of vinegar to a cup of water and then soak a cotton ball in this. And then use the cotton ball, so squeeze it out, but use the squeezed out but damp cotton ball to wipe the salt away. Allow the leather to dry, see what the status is of those leather shoes. And then if they need a polish after that, go ahead and polish. Okay, so that's not too hard, right? Like we can polish our shoes. We can do that. We can bring back polishing as a means by which to extend the life of our leather items. And leather's not cheap, right? So let's save some money too in the process. All right, to my free subscribers, that's our show. If you want more, if you want to know how to iron a shirt, how to shop without credit, and how to use baking soda in cool ways around your house, come on over to the cool side, be a subscriber. If this is goodbye, I'll see you tomorrow for my runner-up favorite episode of all time. I've been releasing those every Friday. Tomorrow is episode number 2 on my list, so the runner-up. I'll see you then. And to my subscribers, stay with me. We're moving on how to iron a shirt. Take care.